Hi, today I'm rocking my Splendor Field t-shirt. That's right, can you see that? Can you see that right there? Splendor Field, a band I recorded about 20 years ago. And today I want to tell you about Splendor Field. I want to tell you why I thought some of their songs were hits. And I'm going to tell you how I recorded them. Get into some of the technical details. So stick around, but first, I want to play you just a little tidbit of Mr. Anderson's Daughter. This is Splendor Field.
No way, never cared about you anyway. Don't you take my only daughter away. Don't take her away. Mr. Anderson's daughter. Mr. Anderson's daughter. Yeah.
So that was Mr. Anderson's Daughter from Splendor Field. They had a lot of other awesome songs too. Jesse wrote one called She Likes Envy, and that song, it was good. He wrote one called Letters that was really good. He wrote one called Girl Stole My Girlfriend. A Girl Stole My Girlfriend. Let me tell you, these were good songs. They were good, really good songs. Pop rock songs. Now let me tell you who Splendor Field is. Splendor Field consisted of Jesse Reynolds. He wrote all the songs, sang the lead, and played rhythm guitar. And then Travis Iddings was his high school buddy, and he played lead guitar on the songs. And then Josh Pierogi, they all lived in Elwood City. Josh Pierogi, he was one hell of a drummer. This boy could bang out a drum set. Let me tell you, Josh could have went to Nashville or LA and been a session drummer if he would have chosen that path. But now we're talking 22 years ago, okay, when I recorded these boys. They released the CD that I'm talking about here with Mr. Anderson's Daughter on it in 2006. Yeah, it's 2025 now. So we're talking 19 years ago, okay? 19 years ago, Splendor Field released these songs. Now, how I know some of them had hits on them was when we went to the concerts, you know, the bars or the clubs. Now, we're in Western Pennsylvania, so I'm talking about 50 to 200 seat venues, okay? Mr. Smalls might have been a little bigger, but when the band played their songs, the audience sang along. Now, how often does that happen? When it does, I figure we got something. I mean, if these boys would have been in LA, you would know who Splendor Field is. I honestly believe that. I think they had hit songs, proof by the fact that the audience sang along every time. It was amazing. And the longer they went, the bigger their following got. Of course, things happen, but that was Splendor Field, and I believe they had hit songs that Jesse wrote. So now I'd like to get into some of the technical part of how I recorded that song.
Don't you take my only daughter away. Yeah. Mr. Anderson's daughter. Mr. Anderson's daughter. Mr. Anderson's daughter. Whoa. Mr. Anderson's daughter.
Now that you know who Splendor Field is, I want to tell you how I recorded them. I mean, I get to geek out, right? This is my favorite part. I hope you like it. If you don't, that's okay. Go watch something else. But for those of you who stick around, we're going to geek out a little bit. All right, so I had 3 dudes coming through the door. I had a drummer, I had a rhythm guitar player who sang, and I had a lead guitar player. And I had to record them all at once to keep the vibe. We did not use a click track. So, wish we didn't need one with Josh. He was a pretty good drummer. It sounded better keeping the vibe without the click track. We actually tried it both ways. So, they all came in. I'll tell you my mic setup on the drums. I had just got that Shure drum kit with 4 57s and some kind of beta mic that you put on the kick. It didn't last very long. I think I might have made it through these 6 songs, this project. But after that, we killed it pretty quick. So, 4 57s. There was snare, tom, 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 kick. And then I had 2 overheads were the Rhodes NT5s. Yep, Rhodes condenser microphones. And I knew enough, it's about the only thing I knew, being a carpenter, to measure between those capsules each side down to the snare drum. I always kept them exactly the same, within a 1/16 of an inch, because I'm a carpenter. All right, so that's pretty much the drums. No room mics or anything. I did add samples later. I added a kick and a snare. Sample that I created myself and put in there, pasted one at a time. That's a whole other story. But, so that's the drums. Now the lead singer, Jesse, he played rhythm guitar. Now we just stuck that into a Pod Line 6 Pro, and it had multiple outs. So one of them went to the interface, the other went into the mixing board for monitoring. And then the lead guitar player, I just stuck a 57 on there, and that went to the board. And then that's it. Now all those microphones had to get into the G4 somehow. I was using a Mac G4 computer. Holy crap, was that thing expensive. It was almost $5,000. You believe in 20 years ago, my wife let me spend that kind of money on a computer? She let me buy all this stuff. Yep, I'm married to an angel. The crazy part is she's still with me. And that's the part that amazes me the most. But, hey, life is good for Ed, right? All right, so where were we? We were on the computer. Yeah, okay. But I got to tell you how I got those microphones into the computer. All right, via the interfaces. Now, I had 2 interfaces. I had the Apogee Ensemble, and I had the Motu 896, which were both each 8 channels, which made 16. Now, you can't run 2 interfaces into the same DAW at the same time, at least not the ones I was using in the Mac. So you have to go in there in the computer and make an aggregate device. I made an aggregate device in the computer of the Ensemble and the Motu 896. And it worked perfect for me. That's how I recorded 16 tracks at once if I needed them. And later, trust me, I did. I had whole choirs in here. But so that's how I got the band into the computer. Then I had to mix it down. Well, let's do the overdubs. Okay, we got to go back to the overdubs. The overdubs, I used pretty much my greatest mastering chain that I had. Okay, I used the greatest, biggest, bestest, most expensive thing I had. Now that consisted of the Neumann M147 microphone, into the M5, the Avalon M5 preamp, which also had a line in, and the 747, which Huey sold me down at Pianos and stuff. I mean, the secret, one of the greatest things I ever bought was the Avalon 747. It's not, you know, huge. It's not, I mean, you're not going to compress the hell out of something with that thing. But just, I learned how just to leave that blue light just flicker, you know, just a little bit, just barely move the needle, and it has been perfection for me. And what it does, it makes everything bigger. Okay, everything becomes bigger when it goes through the 747. So, come time for the lead vocals, you know, I use the Neumann microphone into the M5, into one side of the Avalon 747, and from there into the interface that got me into the computer. And that's how I recorded vocals. And the bass guitar, same thing. I went through the line in of the M5 into the 747, little dinky bit of compression, and into and a little EQ. You know, I always got that smiley face. That's all I knew to do. And the EQ of the 747, and then into the interface and into the computer. And then the microphone, I used a 57 on the combo cabinet for the lead guitar, a little outside the cone, you know. And it was just a 57, you can't go wrong, you know. Thank God for 57s for us poor folks. Anyway, so from the 57 into the M5 and into the Avalon, and everything just got bigger, gooder, and betterer. And that's how I recorded the tracks. That's how I tracked all the overdubs. And then it came time for mixdown. Now that was a whole other thing. Okay, so on mixdown, what I did was in this G4 that I had. Now, I recorded everything at 96K because that's the bestest I could go. I would have done it at 192, but I couldn't quite mix down. It kind of glitched on me and hiccuped, and the interface didn't like it, and so it's just 192 didn't work for me, so I went at 96K in 24-bit, and I had a UAD card in the G4. Now that UAD card was one of the original ones, and it was actually made by Mackie. It says Mackie right on it. The first UAD cards, they must have paid Mackie to build them, the UAD cards for the DSP. And that, I could use a couple LA2As and 1176s in there, and maybe one reverb, the plate reverb, the 140 I think in there. And that was about it for mixdown. And I had a Waves, few Waves EQ plugins, and I had a Waves, what was it, the Waves, I forget what they call it, a little compressor I used a little bit of. And so that was my mixdown in the box. Then I went with two lines out of the ensemble, my main outs, and they went into the 747, which is a compressor and an equalizer with the smiley face. Okay, and then from there into a master link. I had a Alesis master link back in the day. And that master link, it was pretty awesome, you know, for the time. I mean, so the tracks went into it, and it had this little limiter in there and a compressor that I used, and I could limit stuff, compress it, and make my CD right there in the master link. And I would burn a CD, a Redbook CD, and I could take that and make a whole bunch of CDs on my duplicator. And it was a perfect setup. So I had everything, and that's how we did it 20 years ago. I think I covered about everything, but that's how I recorded Splendor Field. And they were Splendor Field, Splendorlicious. Oh yeah. So I had a lot of fun. I still remember it to this day. I remember every minute of those tracking sections and mixing, and I didn't get into how I put sound bites in. That's a whole other crap. I would come down here at 3 in the morning and start cutting, copying, and pasting samples that I had made for the kick and the snare. Okay, I mean, I pasted them one at a time, and Josh had a double kick, so there was a lot of kicks, and he was a lot of snares, and I pasted them one at a time across there. If I needed something out of the kick more than I was getting, I had to do it again. Copy, paste, I mean, one at a time. One kick at a time. That's how we had to do it back in the day. What a job. And then I had to automate all my volumes to make it sound like, you know, when the kick got louder and smaller and the accents, I did that all with automation. Yeah, in Digital Performer, believe it or not. And now I use Logic, but back then Digital Performer was all I had, and that's what I used. But I hope you like this little video about Splendor Field. I know I went on for a while. When I start geeking out, I get all excited. And there's so much more I could go into, but I better cut this here. And but this is Studio Hermit Ed signing off. I hope you liked this. If you did, be sure and subscribe and hit the like button down there and make me feel better. And I'll catch you in the next one. Who knows what story we get into next. Bye-bye.